I felt betrayed when my fiancé pawned the engagement ring I made to fund a wild girls' trip. So I canceled the wedding and walked away. I'm Mason, 32, male. And I've been engaged to Lauren, 29, female, for almost 2 years now. We've been together for 5 years, and until recently, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. Now I'm not so sure, and I feel like I'm losing my mind a little. A bit of context about me. I'm a mechanical engineer, but my real passion is woodworking. I started it as a hobby when I was younger, but over the years it's become my escape from the daily grind. I love making things with my hands, furniture, carvings, and even jewelry. There's something satisfying about taking raw materials and turning them into something beautiful and functional. When it came time to propose to Lauren, I knew I didn't want to just walk into a store and buy a ring. That felt impersonal, you know? I wanted something meaningful, something that represented us, so I decided to make the ring myself. I spent weeks designing it, a simple rose gold band with a sapphire in the center. Lauren loves unique, understated jewelry, so I thought it would be perfect for her. The materials alone cost me $2,600, but honestly, the time and effort I put into it meant way more than the price tag. When I proposed, Lauren was over the moon. She cried when I told her I made the ring myself and kept saying how much she loved it. She even showed it off to her friends and family, telling everyone how special it was. We've been preparing for our wedding ever since, everything from picking the perfect venue to choosing flowers, invitations, and even the tiniest details like table settings. For the last 2 years, she's worn it every day. Until about 3 weeks ago. I first noticed it when we were getting ready to go out for dinner. She wasn't wearing the ring, which was unusual. I didn't say anything at the time because I figured maybe she forgot to put it on or took it off while cleaning. But then I noticed it again the next day, and the day after that. I started paying attention, and it became clear that she wasn't wearing it at all anymore. I thought maybe something happened to it, maybe it got damaged or lost and she was too scared to tell me. So one night, while we were sitting on the couch, I casually asked, "Hey, where's your ring? I haven't seen you wearing it lately." She looked at me for a second, then said, "Oh, I took it to the jeweler to get it cleaned." That answer didn't sit right with me. I made the ring myself. I've always been the one to clean or polish it for her whenever it needed a touch-up. She's never mentioned taking it to a jeweler before, and honestly, the idea of her doing that without telling me felt a little strange. But I didn't want to overthink it or seem controlling, so I just nodded and said, "Oh, okay." Still, something about it bugged me. A few days passed and there was still no sign of the ring. I brought it up again, trying to sound casual, so, "When's your ring coming back from the jeweler?" She glanced at me and said, "It's taking a little longer than expected. They said they're busy." That answer only made me feel worse. What kind of jeweler takes this long to clean a ring? I've cleaned it myself before. It takes, 10 minutes? But I didn't push her on it. I told myself I was being paranoid and that there was probably a simple explanation. Maybe she just wanted to give me a break from maintaining it, or maybe I was reading too much into it. But as more time went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't adding up. Every time I looked at her hand, it felt like a reminder that something was missing, not just the ring, but the connection I thought we had. I started checking around the house, hoping maybe she just left it somewhere. I looked in her jewelry tray, on her nightstand, even in the kitchen where she sometimes takes her rings off while cooking. It wasn't anywhere. I thought about asking her again, but I didn't want to come across as obsessive. If there was something wrong, she'd tell me eventually. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something from me. I started questioning everything. Was I making a big deal out of nothing, or was there something deeper going on? It's been 3 weeks now, and I still haven't seen the ring. Lauren acts like everything's fine, like there's nothing weird about this situation at all, but I can't ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. That ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of everything I thought we stood for, and now it's gone, and I don't know what to think. A few days later, while we were having dinner, Lauren casually said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going on a weekend trip with Kelly and Jenny. Just a little girl's getaway." She said it so casually, like it was no big deal, as if it was the most normal thing ever. I froze for a second, trying to process what she just said. A trip? When did this come up? I asked, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. Lauren shrugged and said, "We've all been so stressed and we just thought, why not take a weekend to relax? Nothing crazy, just some downtime at a cabin upstate." Now here's the thing. Lauren and I have been saving money like crazy. Between wedding planning, trying to get a more reliable car, and a few unexpected expenses that came up earlier this year, we've been cutting back on pretty much everything. No vacations, no unnecessary purchases, and even skipping our usual date nights. This was something we both agreed on months ago, so I was confused hearing her talk about this trip that came from nowhere. I tried not to sound too alarmed. How long have you been planning this? Not long, she said, brushing it off. It's something Kelly suggested, and Jenny's on board. They really want me to come. We've all been stressed, and it's just a weekend. I think it'll be fun. It wasn't sitting right with me. How much is it going to cost? Lauren shrugged. Not much. We're splitting the cabin, and it's just a couple of days. It won't break the bank. Her answers were vague, and that only made me more uneasy. Where are you getting the money for this? We've been saving for months and agreed to put everything we could toward the wedding and the car. I tried to keep my tone even, but I couldn't hide my concern. She gave me a quick, "Don't worry about it. I've been saving up here and there," before going back to her phone. That answer didn't make sense. Lauren hadn't mentioned saving for anything like this before. We share a lot about our financial situation, and I couldn't think of a single time in the last few months when she talked about having extra money for something like a trip. But I didn't want to push it. Maybe she really had been saving and I just didn't notice. I let the conversation drop, though something about it still bugged me. The next evening, I came home from work and Lauren was in our bedroom packing a bag. Seeing her folding clothes and carefully tucking away toiletries brought it all crashing back. This trip wasn't just an idea anymore. It was real, and she was leaving in a day or two. Still, I didn't want to press too hard and turn this into an argument. But the more I thought about it, the more the whole thing bugged me. Lauren wasn't one to make plans like this on a whim, and if she had been saving up, why didn't she mention it before? Something felt off. The next day, I decided to bring it up again. "So, what's the plan for this trip?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Are you guys splitting everything? It seems like it would add up. Gas, food, the cabin. Are you sure it's affordable?" Lauren sighed, clearly irritated that I was still asking questions. "I told you, it's all covered. Kelly found a great deal, and we're dividing the costs evenly." "Even so," I said carefully, "it's a trip. It's not just the cabin, right? Are you sure this is the right time for something like this?" She rolled her eyes and tossed her phone on the couch. "Mason, I've got it covered. Why are you acting like this is such a big deal? It's just a weekend. I need this." Her defensiveness only made me more uneasy. "I'm just trying to understand, that's all," I said. "We've been so tight with money and this feels kinda sudden." "Where's the money coming from?" Her face changed for a split second, just enough for me to notice. It was like she wasn't sure how to answer. That hesitation made my stomach drop. "Lauren," I said carefully, "what's going on?" She shifted uncomfortably, refusing to meet my eyes. "I told you," she said after a moment. "I've got it handled. You don't need to worry about it." "That's not an answer," I said, my voice firmer now. "We've been planning every penny we spend for months, and now you're suddenly pulling money out of nowhere for a trip. I'm not trying to start a fight, but I need to know. Where did the money come from?" She looked annoyed, like I was putting her on the spot for no reason. "Fine," she said, throwing her hands up. "If you must know, I pawned my ring, okay? That's where the money came from." I just stared at her, trying to process what she just said. "What, you pawned your engagement ring?" I asked, my voice quieter now. "Why?" "Because I needed the money," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "It's not gone forever. I'll get it back after the trip." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My chest tightened as her words sank in, each one hitting harder than the last. She pawned the ring I made for her, a piece of myself I poured hours into crafting, just to go on some stupid trip. Was this how little it meant to her? Was this how little I meant to her? "Lauren, that ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. I made that ring for you. I spent weeks on it because I wanted it to mean something, and you just pawned it without even telling me," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "It's my ring," she said defensively. "I didn't think I needed your permission to do what I want with it. Besides, it's not like I sold it. It's temporary." "It's not about needing my permission," I said, trying to stay calm. "It's about the fact that you made a huge decision, one that affects both of us, without even talking to me. That ring was supposed to symbolize our relationship, and you just got rid of it like it was nothing." "I didn't get rid of it," she shot back. "I'm getting it back." "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" Her tone, her body language, everything about her response made me feel like I was losing my mind. She didn't seem to understand or care what the ring meant to me. To her, it was just a means to an end. "Lauren," I said finally, trying to sound as measured as I could, I don't think this is the right time for a trip. We're supposed to be saving, and pawning your ring to make it happen just feels wrong. I can't cancel now, she said, crossing her arms. I already told Kelly and Jenny I'm going. We've been planning this, and I need the break. At that point, I didn't see the point in saying anything else. I could have stopped her. I could have made it impossible for her to leave. But why bother if she couldn't even see the problem in the first place? The next morning, she packed her bags without a hint of hesitation and walked out the door like it was just another day. We'll talk when I get back, she tossed over her shoulder. I stood there watching her go, knowing full well that any conversation we'd have after this wouldn't change a damn thing. But I also knew for sure that things would never be the same anymore. After she left, I just sat there like, what the hell just happened? She straight up told me she pawned the engagement ring I spent so much time and effort on, like it was nothing. Then went on a trip with her friends. Didn't ask, didn't give me a heads up, just dropped it on me like, oh, by the way. At first, I tried to let it go. I told myself it wasn't worth getting worked up over while she was gone. But the longer I sat there, the worse it felt. It wasn't even just about the ring or the trip anymore. It was the way she handled everything, like my input didn't matter, like I was just supposed to roll with it. The secrecy, the dismissiveness, the whole attitude. It felt so off. I spent the next hour just doom-scrolling my phone, trying to distract myself, but it wasn't working. My brain kept circling back to her trip. Lauren's not usually this impulsive, and she's definitely not the type to jump on some last-minute plan without thinking it through. None of it made sense, especially since money's been tight lately. So I started digging. If she wasn't going to tell me what was really going on, I had to figure it out myself. I started with her friends Kelly and Jenny. Look, I'll be honest. I've never been a fan of those two. They're the type who seem to live for drama and dumb decisions. From what I know, neither of them would ever willingly sign up for a quiet weekend getaway. Their version of a trip is loud clubs, bad choices, and regret-packed mornings. The idea that they were planning some peaceful cabin retreat? Yeah, not buying it. Something about this whole thing wasn't adding up. I opened Instagram and searched for Kelly's profile. Sure enough, her most recent post was a picture of a cabin surrounded by trees with the caption, "Girls' weekend begins, let's go." The cabin looked expensive, way too nice to be the kind of place you'd go to on a tight budget. Then I noticed something else in Kelly's caption. "Shout out to my man for helping make this trip happen. You're the best." That was weird. Lauren hadn't mentioned anything about Kelly's boyfriend funding part of the trip. In fact, she'd made it sound like they were all splitting the cost evenly. It got me wondering, did Lauren pawn the ring because she felt like she had to keep up with her friends Kelly and Jenny? The more I thought about it, the more it kind of added up. Lauren's always been close to Kelly, and honestly, she seems to admire her whole free-spirited, no-strings-attached vibe. I wouldn't be surprised if she felt some pressure to match that, even if it meant making choices that didn't make much sense. And now that I think about it, the way she brushed off my questions about the trip felt off, like she wasn't giving me the whole picture. I kept scrolling through Kelly's feed, but there wasn't much about the trip, just a couple of generic quality time with the girls' posts and some pics of her packing. Nothing that stood out. So I checked Jenny's profile. She's usually more low-key online, but her latest story caught my eye. It was a boomerang of her and Kelly clinking glasses, captioned cabin vibes, and in the background, a fully stocked bar. This didn't feel right. Lauren had made it seem like this was a relaxing getaway, but everything I was seeing pointed to something much bigger. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Was there more to this trip than she'd let on? And if so, why wouldn't she just tell me the truth? I sat back, trying to make sense of it all. Maybe I was reading too much into things. Maybe Kelly and Jenny were just the kind of people who liked to make everything seem fancier than it really was. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself, that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. That's when I noticed Lauren's laptop sitting on the kitchen counter, closed, but just sitting there, plain as day. She must have forgotten it in her rush to leave for the trip. I stood there for a solid minute, just staring at it and going back and forth in my head. On one hand, opening it felt invasive, like crossing a line I wasn't sure I wanted to cross. But then again, she'd already been hiding things, pawned something that meant so much to me and completely brushed off everything I said. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like, you know what? I deserve to know what's really going on. So I grabbed it, opened the lid, and logged in. I powered on the laptop and navigated to her messages. Their group chat opened easily, and as I scrolled through, my stomach tightened. The most recent messages were all about the trip, and the further I read, the worse it got. This wasn't some quiet weekend getaway. They were planning nights out at bars, meeting guys, and getting wasted and see what happens. One message from Kelly practically jumped off the screen. "Leave the ring at home. No one needs to know you're engaged this weekend." My hands gripped the edge of the counter as I reread it, anger and disbelief flooding through me. I kept scrolling, my stomach sinking further with every message I read. Jenny chimed in. "Yeah, this is your chance to have some fun before getting married. Don't let him hold you back." Lauren's response? A laughing emoji, and sure, I could definitely use a little freedom. Freedom. That word hit me like a truck. Freedom from what? Me? The life we were building together? I kept scrolling, hoping there'd be something, anything, that would make this make sense, but it only got worse. Jenny even joked about how they could act single for the weekend without anyone finding out, and Lauren, she didn't say a damn thing to shut it down. Instead, she laughed along like it was all just some harmless joke. I couldn't believe she was that stupid to trust girls like this or even listen to them. It was like she thought no matter what she did, I'd still be there picking up the pieces. I felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me. This wasn't just about the money or the ring anymore. This was about trust, and everything I was reading made it clear that Lauren had no problem throwing that trust away. I sat there for what felt like an eternity staring at the screen. Part of me wanted to close the laptop and pretend I hadn't seen any of it. But another part of me, probably the louder part, knew I couldn't ignore this. I needed to do something. For a moment, I thought about calling her, but what would I even say? "Hey Lauren, I just read your group chat, and now I know you've been lying to me about this trip." No, that wouldn't work. This wasn't the kind of conversation I could have over the phone. It had to be face to face. Still, I couldn't pretend like everything was fine while she was out there lying to me and making a fool of our relationship. At that moment, I just knew I wasn't going to continue this relationship with someone who could lie to my face, throw away something so personal, and make decisions behind my back. If she was capable of this now, even before we were married, what would she do once we were married and life got tougher? Everything I thought I knew about Lauren, about our relationship, felt like it was slipping through my fingers. What she did wasn't some minor mistake. It was huge, at least for me. Call me whatever you want, but I just couldn't see a future with someone who could so easily disrespect me and our relationship. This wasn't about insecurity or overreacting. It was about trust, honesty, and what kind of partnership I wanted in life. And clearly that wasn't something we could have anymore. I did the first thing that came to mind. I opened my laptop and started pulling up all the details for the wedding we'd been planning. Venues, caterers, flowers, every vendor we'd booked. I wasn't even sure what I was doing at first. It felt impulsive, almost reckless, but as I stared at the confirmation emails, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I started making calls and canceling everything. The venue was the hardest. It had taken months to find, and the deposit was painful to lose. But as I told the coordinator the wedding was off, I felt a weird sense of relief, like I was finally taking back control. After that, I canceled the caterer and florist, spending hours undoing months of planning. It was exhausting, but there was no way I could go through with a wedding when the person I was supposed to marry couldn't even respect me enough to be honest. Canceling the wedding wasn't enough. Lauren was still on that trip, lying and acting like she was single. I couldn't just let her get away with it, especially knowing other people were caught in the lies too. I kept thinking about the group chat messages. Kelly and Jenny bragging about how no one needs to know, planning to act single. They thought they were slick, pulling one over on everyone, but they weren't as smart as they thought. If Lauren's behavior was anything to go by, there was no way Kelly and Jenny's boyfriends had a clue about what was really going on. This wasn't just about me anymore. Those guys deserved to know the truth about the kind of women they were dealing with. I wasn't about to sit back and let them treat all this deceit like it was some kind of joke. They needed to be exposed, and I was ready to make sure it happened. I opened my phone and started searching. It didn't take long to find Kelly's boyfriend Mark on Instagram. He was tagged in several of her photos, and his profile was public. "Hey Mark," I wrote. "I know this is completely random, but I'm Lauren's fiancé, and I just found some messages between her, Kelly, and Jenny about their trip. They're on. I think you should know what's going on." I attached screenshots of the group chat, specifically the messages where Kelly talked about leaving her ring behind and acting single. After double-checking everything, I hit send. I did the same for Jenny's boyfriend, Jake. He was a bit harder to find, but after scrolling through Jenny's profile, I found him tagged in a photo. I sent him a similar message along with the same screenshots. After that, I felt a wave of anxiety. What if they didn't believe me? What if this only made things worse? But then the responses started coming in. Mark was the first to reply. Wait, what? Are you serious? He wrote, Kelly told me they were just going to relax at a cabin. She never mentioned anything about going to bars or acting single. Jake's response was similar, dude. Thanks for telling me. Jenny made it sound like this was just a quiet weekend with her friends. I had no idea. Both of them were understandably upset, and we exchanged messages for a while as I explained everything I'd found. Mark was especially angry. I've been feeling weird about this trip since she mentioned it, he said. I should have trusted my gut. Over the next couple of hours, I started hearing about the fallout. Mark messaged me again saying, It's been chaos, man. I confronted Kelly, and she tried to brush it off like it wasn't a big deal. When I didn't buy it, she said Lauren was the one who came up with the idea to leave the rings behind. That was it for me. I packed my stuff and moved out that night. Jake wasn't far behind. He texted, Jenny's been trying to spin the whole thing, saying it was just jokes, but I'm not buying it. I went to her parents' house to talk it out because she wouldn't even give me a straight answer. From what they told me, it was pure chaos. Kelly and Jenny turned on each other, trying to shift the blame, and Lauren wasn't off the hook either. Apparently, Kelly told Mark that Lauren had dragged them into this mess to make herself look better. By the time I finished talking to them, I felt a strange mix of emotions. It felt good to know I wasn't alone in this, that other people were just as blindsided as I was. But it was heartbreaking to see how much damage this trip had caused, not just to me but to Mark and Jake as well. After that, I decided to just let it all go and focus on myself. I'd done what I could, and there was no point in obsessing over it anymore. I spent the day trying to get my head straight, cleaning up, taking Max for a walk, and avoiding anything that reminded me of Lauren. The house still felt weird though, too quiet, too empty. But I told myself it was better this way. I couldn't control what she'd done, but I could control how I moved forward. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lauren. What's going on, Mason? Kelly said you messaged Mark. Why would you do that? I stared at the screen for a second, my stomach twisting, before tossing the phone aside. I wasn't about to let her drag me back into her mess. I stared at the screen for a moment, debating how to respond. I wasn't about to get into an argument over text. I texted back, we need to talk. Come back home so we can have a real conversation face to face. Her response came quickly. I can't just leave, Mason. We've had this trip planned for weeks. I don't understand why you're doing this right now. I wasn't going to get pulled into a back and forth. Come back so we can talk properly. If not, don't expect to find me here when you get back. That's all I'm saying. No reply came after that. Whatever happened next, I knew things would never be the same anymore. She came back late the next day. I didn't even hear the door open at first, but her voice cut through the silence. Mason, are you serious right now? She said, sharp and accusatory, like I was the one who messed up. I turned around to see her standing in the doorway, arms crossed, looking equal parts pissed and shocked. Glad you decided to come back, I said, keeping my tone calm. The last thing I wanted was for this to turn into a yelling match. I can't believe you, she snapped, stepping into the room. Kelly and Jenny are furious. Mark and Jake are blowing up their phones, and now it's all being blamed on me. What the hell were you thinking, Mason? I leaned back against the counter, crossing my arms. I was thinking it's time for some honesty. You said we'd talk when you got back, so here we are. Let's talk. She scoffed, dropping her bag onto the floor with a thud. This is how you handle things? By sticking your nose into other people's relationships? You've made everything so much worse. You want to talk about making things worse? I asked. I asked you to come back so we could have a real conversation. This isn't about your friends, Lauren. This is about us. She sighed loudly, like she was the one dealing with a headache. Fine, she said. You clearly want to get something off your chest, so go ahead. I stood there for a moment, just looking at her. Defensive, combative, completely blind to where I was coming from. It was like everything I'd been holding in finally snapped. I feel like I don't even know who you are anymore, I said, my voice steady but sharp. You've been lying, keeping secrets, making decisions that affect both of us without a second thought, and when I try to bring it up, you act like I'm the problem. Her eyes narrowed. You're being ridiculous. I haven't lied to you about anything. I raised an eyebrow. Really? You didn't lie when you said this trip was just a relaxing getaway with your friends? You didn't lie by keeping me in the dark about how it was even paid for? She hesitated just for a second before the attitude came right back. I told you where the money came from, she snapped. And the trip wasn't some wild party like you're trying to make it sound. We just needed a break. I don't see what the big deal is. The big deal, I said, my voice hardening, is that you didn't think it was important to talk to me about any of it. You didn't think it mattered to be honest with me. Do you even know how that feels? To find out everything after the fact, like I don't even deserve to know what's going on? She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. You're blowing this way out of proportion, Mason. It was just a weekend with my friends. It's not like I did anything wrong. You still don't get it, I said, shaking my head. This isn't about the trip, Lauren. It's about respect. You pawned your engagement ring, lied about it, and then brushed off my feelings like they didn't matter. Do you even realize what you've done? Her arms crossed tightly, her face hard and unbothered. It's just a ring, Mason. You're making this into something it's not. Those words hit harder than I thought they would. It's not just a ring, I said quietly. I made that ring for you. It wasn't just jewelry, it was supposed to mean something, about us, about our future, and you treated it like it was nothing. She stared at me, her expression cold. Then, with the kind of tone that made me wonder if I ever really knew her, she said, If you're this obsessed with a piece of jewelry, maybe you need to rethink what marriage is supposed to mean. That cut deeper than anything else she'd said. I took a slow breath, steadying myself. You're right, Lauren. I do need to rethink this. Because it's clear we don't see things the same way. Her eyes flickered for a second, caught off guard. What's that supposed to mean? It means this is over, I said firmly. I canceled the wedding. I'm done. You've shown me exactly how much this relationship means to you, and I'm not going to keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. Her jaw dropped. You canceled the wedding without even talking to me? I nodded, completely calm. I didn't think I needed your permission, I said, throwing her words right back at her. For a moment, she just stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. I didn't wait for her to find the words. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, stuck with the weight of what had just happened. The next few days were honestly surreal. Lauren left the house, packed up her stuff, and dipped without saying where she was going. I didn't ask. Why would I? I was done chasing after her or trying to figure out what was going on in her head. At first it felt weird. The house was quieter, but also lighter, like I could actually breathe again. By the time a month had passed, I was starting to feel like myself again. But last week I got a message from Lauren. Short and to the point. We need to talk. I stared at it for a while, debating if I should even bother responding. But the truth is, I didn't owe her a damn thing. Whatever she wanted to say wasn't going to change what happened, and it sure as hell wasn't going to change the fact that I was moving on. So I left it on read. That was the last I heard from her, and honestly, good riddance. Now let's talk about the ring. At first I thought about just letting it go, but something kept gnawing at me. I couldn't stop thinking about how Lauren had pawned it without a second thought, like it didn't mean anything. I don't know if it was pride, anger, or just wanting to reclaim the thing I made with my own hands, but I decided to get it back. The problem, I had no clue which pawn shop she'd gone to. Did I text her? Hell no. Instead, I started retracing steps. I knew Lauren wasn't the type to go out of her way for something like that. She was all about convenience. I made a list of shops near her usual routes, like places she passed on her way to work or the grocery store. I went to each one asking if they'd seen a custom rose gold ring with a sapphire. Most of them just gave me blank looks or said no. Finally, at one shop, the guy behind the counter asked, "Did it have an engraving inside? Something like initials or a date?" My heart dropped. I'd added a small engraving with our anniversary date. I nodded, and he pulled it out from behind the counter. Seeing it again hit me harder than I expected. It felt like reclaiming a part of myself that had been stolen. Once I had it back, I couldn't keep it around anymore. It still carried too much baggage, but at least now I got to decide what to do with it. So I sold it. Bittersweet as hell, but also freeing. The money I got went towards something I've wanted to do for years but never felt like I could. Starting a personal project I'd been dreaming about. Putting that money into something I cared about felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. When Lauren found out I'd tracked down the ring and sold it, she called me furious. "What the hell, Mason? That was my ring. You had no right to sell it." I simply told her, I had every right. I made that ring, and you pawned it without even telling me. If it meant so little to you, why should you care what I did with it? She sputtered for a moment before switching tactics. I was going to get it back after the trip. You're so dramatic. I didn't bother arguing. The ring was mine to reclaim, and selling it felt like reclaiming myself. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. If you're reading this and dealing with something similar, here's my advice. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't brush it aside. Don't stay in a situation just because you've already put in time or effort. It's not worth it. You deserve someone who respects you and values what you bring to the table, not someone who treats you like a backup plan. As for me, I'm still moving forward. Work's been good. I've got solid friends who've had my back through this. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm on the right track. One step at a time. But it feels like the life I want to build is finally in reach.